Want me to introduce myself?
I will introduce you. Okay. Well, good afternoon, folks. This is Jim Hodson here at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, the home of the most touchable warbirds in Texas. As you can see behind me, we've got the OV-1 Mohawk, OV-1 Mohawk, but we've got a couple experts here with us today. And let's see, we're going to get that turned around. We've got Eli Martinez with us. Eli is a Mohawk person, and we've got Larry McGhee, if I can get it swung around here. Both of these guys are Mohawk people. Eli's the only one with a mic, so if Larry's going to have to get up close a little bit or yell. So we're here today. We're going to walk around the Mohawk a little bit, and these guys are going to point out some things. But right now,
Absolutely.
Why don't you show them what you're working with right here?
Well, this is the beginnings of the buildup of a prop assembly.
Okay.
So we got the prop hub split from the parts and pieces that we have. And what we're going to start doing is attaching prop blades to it.
Okay.
Build it up so eventually we can install it on the engines and install it on the aircraft.
Okay.
So, yeah, just getting started.
Very good.
Just getting started.
Okay, so first of all, before we start looking at the airplane, what's your background in Mohawk?
Wow, my background is I went to Mohawk school at Fort Eustis back in 1989.
Okay.
And so, since then, I worked with them. In the first couple of years, I just kind of went TDY back and forth from Fort Bragg to Savannah, Georgia, Hunter Army Airfield, because the first couple of years of my Army career, I actually didn't work on the Mohawks.
Oh, really?
I was trained on them, I knew about them, and all that good stuff. But I ended up going to the Army parachute team, the Golden Knights, and I worked with those guys in their Fokker F-27s and U-21s and C-12s.
Yeah.
That's what I did the first couple of years.
Okay.
So 89 to 91, I was at Fort Bragg. I went to Korea the following year, and that's when I really got my hands on.
Okay.
And that's where I worked on that particular aircraft.
Okay.
So
this one that we've got here
I've got
today.
history with that
aircraft.
aircraft.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, here I'm gonna hand my mic to Larry, and we're gonna talk to Larry here for just a second. Larry, so tell us about your background with the Mohawk.
I went to the Mohawk school in ¡88, so that maybe that's where I kind of recognize you. Maybe 88, 89 time frame.
Yeah.
My first duty station was Fort Huachuca, Arizona, where they taught the person in the right-hand side to run the equipment in the aircraft. From there, I was stationed in Wiesbaden, Germany, and we actually got to service all the aircraft there. We were a support team for the company there, so we did all the phase work when they came up for their annuals. So that's where I did the prop work, and they pulled the seats at that time, but I didn't happen to be on a seat team, so I can't help you out there.
Okay, that's all right.
But we actually did ready the planes as they were flying over for the Iraq War in 90.
All right.
Was it
91?
91?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were there. As the planes flew in, we serviced everything, and then they flew into Italy, I believe it was. They hopped down there, and then from Italy they hopped over.
Okay.
But that's pretty much. I only had about 5 years in, but it was an enjoyable time, and that's why I'm here today, because I miss it.
That's great. Thank you. Let's walk around the airplane a
Yeah,
little
sure,
bit.
sure. Yeah, it's been a long time since I worked on this aircraft, but when it was in Savannah, Georgia, that's where I had a lot of hands-on. And as a matter of fact, if you looked at the aircraft, there's places where this aircraft's been tagged by maintenance personnel
Well, let's
from
show them some of those.
different units.
Yeah,
Sure.
let's show them some of those.
All right, let's go around this side first, because this is the most interesting, and this is what really caught my attention, because it's got markings here: Elvis Lives, JK, and a 224 MI. Well, 224 MI was the unit that I was in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
JK, that's my buddy Jimmy Knipple.
Okay.
So Jimmy Knipple that was his tag, Elvis Lives. On top of that, he would always put the lightning bolt with the TCB, taking care of business.
All right.
That was his thing. So if he worked on it, he tagged the aircraft. So it's just amazing.
And so he's tagged this one over here.
Oh
too.
yeah, he tagged this aircraft, and I guarantee you those markings have been on there closer to 30 years.
So what's the 224 MI mean?
Military intelligence. That's the 224th Military Intelligence
Okay.
Battalion
And that's where these airplanes originally started with, is my understanding, in Vietnam.
Well, no.
Okay.
No, in fact, no. And they were probably with the first aviation brigade that was in Vietnam.
Okay.
You know? And so, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But, you know, Vietnam is quite a long time, and, you know, some of those units were different. And the aircraft were configured differently. I mean, back in Vietnam, they had rocket pods on there, so they were actually firing rockets.
Okay,
off
they did.
these things,
Okay,
you
so
know?
it wasn't just observation and
No,
intelligence.
you know, they still had to defend themselves too, you know,
Okay.
so that's what they ended up doing. You'll find, you look through the books and pictures and stuff about Mohawks in combat.
Okay.
They had rocket pods on there.
Okay.
But by the time they got over to us in the late 80s and 90s, those, you know, we stopped using those. Still flying missions.
Okay.
I mean, we got the SLAR boom on that trailer.
Yeah, the canoe's out there on
The
trailer.
canoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people thought it was like Tomahawk missile.
Oh,
you know, the
okay.
names are endless, but it's actually an antenna, is what it is.
Okay, well, we'll go out and take a look at that.
Sure,
later
sure.
on. That was a side-looking radar, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Side-looking airborne radar.
Yeah.
SLAR.
Okay.
So again,
So what was your specialty with the airplane?
I was a general mechanic.
Okay.
So I did just about everything on it, from prepping the aircraft, getting it ready for actual
Okay.
flight. And so what that entailed was, you know, you come out to the hangar about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Pry the doors open because they weren't electric like the Air Force had.
Oh, all right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you broke your back, and I got the messed up discs in the back to prove it.
Okay.
And we drag out the power cart, the ag pool.
Well, I see Larry's got some compartments open. Let's talk about those a little bit.
Yeah. You know, you got this aircraft was just full of electronics because it was, they say, observation aircraft. So, you know, it was a reconnaissance aircraft.
Okay.
But that's just a real nice, friendly, public way of saying it was a spy plane.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what it was being used for.
So what have we got on this side?
You got, this is part of the inertial nav system and the electronics for
Yeah,
running
so
all
that
the
one-
equipment.
That one says nav computer up here.
Yep, that's a nav computer. It's part of the INS. That thing weighs a ton, and it was no fun trying to install that thing. But
Well, this was actually old technology for those.
but it was so sophisticated that, you know, into the 80s and 90s, we were still using this stuff. I mean, these airplanes have been, you know, aside from Vietnam, they took them to Desert Storm.
Yes, I know.
You know?
And in fact, this airplane has experience there also.
Yeah, this aircraft's probably got more military service than most service members. It's amazing.
In addition to the Army, this particular airplane belonged to the Israeli Air Force for 2 or 3 years.
It's amazing.
And then came back to the Army afterwards and went to Desert Storm.
And if they get blown up, it came back in one piece. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, these aircraft, they were very durable, as you can see.
Yep.
I mean, you know, this aircraft was made in the 60s.
It was built by Grumman, the Grumman Iron Works.
Yeah, Iron Works.
Yeah, not only do they make them sturdy, but they make them ugly. So some people will say. So when did they change? I know in Vietnam they were green. When did they change to gray?
Not absolutely sure. It had to be after Vietnam.
Okay.
You know, obviously they painted them, you know, OD green because they were flying through jungle over above and above the canopies of the jungle. So it had to somewhat blend in with the terrain.
Well, we had Larry Stafford here last week. Do either of you know Larry Stafford?
No.
He was a pilot. He's flown this airplane. He flew it in Vietnam, and he also flew it in gray. He flew it in both colors. He said the green, though, was a high gloss green.
Yeah. And then the gray is IR gray, so it reflects radar signature.
So what else do we want to show them about the airplane?
Let's take a look around. I mean, it's missing wings, so we'll get those put on eventually.
Wings are still in Minnesota, but they'll be on their way.
And apparently the seats still have the squibs in it, so they're still hot. So we're going to have to pull the seats out and disable and pull those charges out. So let's take a look in the nose.
So the canopy is interesting because it's a little bit like the OV-10 in that it's bowed out.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting in the airplane, you can look down underneath the airplane. I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah. Oh, the whole nose opens up.
Yeah, that's where one of the forward camera would be mounted.
Oh, that's right, because you've got this little window.
You got the glass
there,
window. Yeah, and that's where so the lens could peek out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the camera actually mounted on this.
And do you know what size film it was?
Big.
I flew RF4s for a while, and we used a 70 millimeter film. They're really big, the big stuff, same stuff that they used in cinemas for a while.
Yeah, no, I don't.
So this was just a single camera that sat up in here?
Yeah, one camera there, but there's also a belly camera as well.
And it was positionable between left and right side, depending on, or down, whichever side you wanted.
Now, do you know whether this was film or was it electronic and data linked?
Film.
This one was film.
Okay.
This is an OV, so it was film, and then the RV had the data link.
Oh, now RV ones?
RV ones.
So
RV
they
1Ds.
modified them to have the data link.
There's two different versions of this aircraft. Yeah, aside from the trainer, there was two primary configurations, OV, RV.
Well, in the Israelis, they referred to theirs as an EV, I think it was.
And that was the E's for electronics.
Electronics,
Yeah.
okay. So I know, and we've talked about this at other points in time, is that I flew RF-4s, which was a film airplane, along with like the RF-8s, but the Air Force converted their RF-4s to a data link later on because they were concerned about the Fulda gap in Germany and the data not getting back. So I'm assuming that that's probably the same thing here.
Interesting. So let's take a look around the side.
This airplane has ejection seats, correct?
Martin Baker ejection seats, that's correct.
And the whole canopy can't come off, so how does this
The
one
canopy does, the top hatch does.
Okay.
We can get it to pop up. It hinges,
I see that. Okay.
It hinges on the back side.
And then the wind just takes it away.
Absolutely right, that's correct. The wind would take it and blow it out of the way, and then once the canopy clears the aircraft, you pull the handles, one of several. There's one above.
Okay.
That
face curtain?
If it's got the face curtain on it, yep. Then you got the one between your legs, you can pop, you know.
Okay, what's the big scoop for? I think I know.
That's for air.
That's just for air to cool the electronic equipment, right?
To cool all that electronic junk that's in there. You know, for us, it was just...
Well, there's lots of panels here. So is this all electronics here in the, underneath here in the belly?
Absolutely, yeah. Because you had several cameras. You know, we got the nose and the belly camera in there. So there was a lot of electronics.
Where's the belly camera at?
Well, on the other side, you can see the trap door here. If we were to swing this door, there'd be a camera with a down-facing lens.
Oh, okay.
And it swings.
So that's the belly camera.
Yes.
And it does panoramics.
Yes.
Okay. There's a lot of antennas on this airplane too, aren't there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then they got tagged by second.
Oh, okay.
They got tagged by second MI. And second MI, I wasn't in that unit, but I'm pretty sure that was one of the two MI units in Germany.
Yeah. So did these airplanes move around a lot between units? Or did they just move around a lot between the units that needed them for support?
Well, they were unit property.
Oh, okay.
Okay. They were unit property, as is a typewriter and a computer and a tug.
But they belonged to a company,
They belonged to a company specifically, but there was also battalion property.
Okay.
So somebody had to sign for them.
And how many would be in a company?
Wow. That's, I don't even remember how many we had. But I can tell you that in 95, 96, Hunter Army Airfield, Georgia, we started collecting airplanes.
Oh, really?
As units started to close down and as we were getting ready to basically, shut down the use of the Mohawk and redistribute them by other means, they all came to us. So the Oregon Guard had aircraft. We received those. Georgia Guard had some.
So
some
they were
came from
pretty well
Huachuca.
Distributed around the Army.
Somewhat. I mean, the Mohawk communities, the reason why we're still in contact was because it was a real tight, close-knit community, because it was actually kind of a small community.
Kind of like the OV-10 community in the Marine Corps, I'm going to guess.
Because we had them in Korea, Germany, and a couple places in the U.S. And after a while, all the aircraft that were flyable were Korea and Hunter Army Airfield, Georgia. So, I mean, that's what my hat's all about.
Okay.
We went TDY in 96.
That's what the hat's for. Okay.
That's exactly what it's about. A few of us went from TDY from Savannah, Georgia, to Korea to help our brothers out there, help them demill a bunch of aircraft and shut the unit down.
All right.
So I remember that they started to cut the wings off some of the aircraft and found that to be just absolutely just too difficult to do.
All right.
And probably unsafe. So they stopped doing that. And then after a while, some of those aircraft got demilled in place. And I know the ones in Georgia that some of them went to schools, some of them ended up at the Argentine Air Force, and so yeah, they got redistributed. They got redistributed.
Okay.
So
What? Now I know the Israeli Air Force referred to these as bats. Now, what was the nickname the Army had for them?
oh, that's a great question.
I can't say the one we called it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember what we called it, but
So it didn't have an official nickname. It was just always
Not-
called the Mohawk.
OV-1 Mohawk. That's what it was. But you know, we had special names for it from time to time, especially when we were having trouble. You know,
Yeah, we all have names for those things, right?
it's
Okay.
like when you're working on your car,
Yeah.
and you get mad and you throw the wrench.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Why don't we take a walk up and we'll take a look at the canoe? And it also carries drop tanks too, right?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, and I saw something on one of these. In fact, this airplane, I saw a picture of it at an air show or something. It had an external on it that looked like it had 3 big lights underneath it. You familiar with those? Looked like it was either floodlights for cameras or for photography or infrared or something like
Did
that.
it have mirrors on it? A bunch of
Couldn't
mirrors?
really tell, but it was
Kinda-
like 3 underneath.
Kind
the
of looked
bottom.
like a disco ball in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
That's the AQ-144.
Well, no. Now this thing looked like a regular drop tank, but it had these 3 dishes in it. That's all right. We'll figure out
think
what
that's
it is.
part of the RV configuration. I
Okay.
think I know what you're talking about.
Oh, all right. So we're walking out here. There's a lot of other activity out here today. Looking at the Harrier, getting a couple of cockpits off of a trailer, so it'll be a little noisy background here.
Yeah, because the the OV-1 was equipped with countermeasures.
Okay.
So they had the M130 flare chaff dispenser, so it could blow chaff out and just kind of scatter it to make one aircraft look like many aircraft.
Okay. Is this the props and hub off of?
Yeah, this is the other built-up prop
So this
assembly.
one's already built up, and what you guys were working with there is to build one of these up.
Yeah, we're going to build up the other one and get it ready to hang whenever we can get either a prop stand or engines.
Okay. So this is these drop tanks are fuel tanks.
External storage, yeah.
External, extend the range. Do you have any idea how long they could stay airborne? 5 hours.
Sounds about right.
So and the big thing here, you said this is an antenna for the side-looking radar.
Side-looking airborne radar SLAR boom.
Okay, and
Yeah.
it was attached to the bottom of the fuselage.
No,
right?
it's attached to the right side of the aircraft.
Yeah, but to the fuselage of the airplane, not under the wing.
It's on the fuselage
Yeah.
itself.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so this is part of the electronics package on
Okay.
the OV aircraft configuration. And it's just a giant antenna that would emit. And
Okay. Is it heavy?
It's at least a 2-man carry, and I
Okay.
think we normally use
So it's
2
not
or 3
completely.
guys.
It's not, okay.
It's got handles for 4, and I know we had a
Oh,
check.
okay,
Well,
those
I'll
are
tell you what,
handles.
it might be a 4-man carry, and I can't recall the last time I saw 4 people carrying it.
Okay. Okay. Well, we got a lot of background noise here, so let's walk back over to the airplane. But I wanted people to see this part of it.
I think for the mission tanks, there was a bigger tank that we had for doing
The ferry flights.
Ferry flights.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
These are 150.
150,
I think.
Yeah.
and then the other ones were
Sprite
300.
piece.
Yeah.
So you could add 300 gallons by changing your outer tank.
Yeah, that would extend your range, but it would make the aircraft super heavy, so you just had to make sure that time was right, temperature was good, your weight
Okay.
and balance was squared, and just had a lot of runway.
Well, we had a bunch of folks out here this morning. Going to take a quick stop, let them see what's going on here with the Harrier, because we looked at this last week.
All right.
We had a quick organizational meeting this morning on the Harrier. They're taking a look and assessing the wing. We know we've got a bunch of corrosion on it that we're going to have to deal with, but this will be a story for another day. But we also had a number of people like Eli and Larry that came out this morning and are interested in helping us restore the Mohawk. We're glad to have them here because expertise on this airplane is something that we don't have. So these two gentlemen are going to help lead the charge on getting the Mohawk back together and put it out on display for people.
When you're talking about expertise, who are you talking about? Who are you referring to?
Yeah, you two. I only saw pictures of them until a week ago. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So at any rate, we've got a bunch of people on here. If anybody's got any questions, now's a good time to ask, and we'll walk back over here to the airplane. So if there's something you ask about, we can point it out on the airplane itself. We are planning on putting the horizontal stab and the tails on it because it's got 3 tails, right?
3 tails.
And crew of 2, correct?
Yes.
A pilot and what, a systems operator?
Yeah, they would. The person that was flying the right seat is a TO. They were called TO, technical observer.
Okay.
And they're the ones that would flip the switches and take the pictures.
Okay, now pilots, officers, warrant officers?
Warrant officers, most of them.
Okay.
Company commanders, captain.
Okay.
And he flew, and the battalion commander was normally a driver, lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
So.
And the TO or the technical operator?
Yeah, technical observer is normally like a specialist E4 or a sergeant E5. Yeah. And they would get flight pay and we wouldn't.
Yeah, I get that. They wouldn't take you up once in a while just so you get flight skins?
Well, yeah, sure.
2 flights in 5 years.
Yeah,
Did you
sure.
really? Okay.
But we wanted the money.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't about riding in the airplane. It was about the money, right?
Yeah, that was fun in there, but we wanted to get paid too.
That's right.
So we're real pleased with this airplane. It's in pretty good shape. I mean, the paint just deteriorates, but this airplane, some of you may have noticed.
Looks like it did 30 years ago.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty surprising. I mean, a little dusty. It could use a wash, but honestly, it kind of looks like what the aircraft looked like back in the 90s.
Well, that's
really
great. We know it's got a civilian registration on it, so at one point in time this airplane was a flyer. We seriously doubt whether it will ever go back into an airworthy condition. Part of it is an engine issue, part of it is just maintaining things for flight and insurance. But it's a nice part of the collection here. We don't have a lot of Army equipment here, so it's nice to have another piece of Army equipment here. And it certainly fits in with the observation, intelligence gathering aspects of what forward air controllers do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah. It's a piece of history.
I'm not seeing any questions, so if not, and we're getting down to low battery here, we're going to go ahead and probably end it for today. You'll see this online, so you'll be able to ask more questions. It'll be on Facebook for a while, and then we will put it over onto our YouTube channel with all the rest of our videos. So again, we are still open here on Saturdays from 9 until 2. It's a great day today. The weather's real nice today. We're anticipating that we may be opening up a second day before too long. Our volunteers are starting to come back as people are getting their vaccinations and everything else. So at any rate, for now, from the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, from Eli Martinez and from Larry McGhee, thanks for tuning in today, and we'll look forward to having more for you next week.
Scan, baby.
We're out of here.